Do you want to make weight loss faster and easier? Say yes, please, in the comments. Do you want to lose weight without going hungry? Say I do. Say it out loud. Type it in the comments. Yes, we definitely want those things. That is possible with the concept of calorie density that you are going to learn about in today's video. I'm Sarah with The Holy Mess, and this is actually video number 2 about calorie density. A while back, I recorded video number 1, and in video number 1, I show you all different kinds of foods that are about 200 calories each, and we saw the huge difference between a plate of zucchini that you can get for 200 calories that's so filling and delicious, or potatoes, or even things like pasta, whole wheat pasta or brown rice compared to the really high calorie density of other foods. Well, that video has been so popular and viewed so many times that I decided to follow up with more videos, and now we have a free printable calorie density guide, and the link for that is below. I have lost over 100 pounds, and I've been maintaining that now for almost 20 years. But it was really just a couple years ago that I learned more about the concept of calorie density and how to apply it in a way that would make a huge difference in my weight loss. When I did that, I lost even more weight, and it was so much easier, and I wasn't as hungry. I started teaching these concepts to people that follow me in my Faithful Finish Lines program that I run together with my business partner, Becky, who's also lost 100 pounds. In my weight loss challenges, I have 30-day weight loss challenges, and as I started sharing these concepts with women, so many of them were saying, yes, this makes a huge difference. This is really important. So now I'm offering it to you. I want you to download this free printable guide that's all about calorie density. It's the Holy Mess Calorie Density Guide, so that you can have these concepts too. And in today's video, I'm going to explain why calorie density makes such a huge difference and why it was a game changer for me, and it will be for you too. So this guide includes some basic information about calorie density. We have this really helpful chart of green, yellow, and red foods. So when I talk about foods being green, yellow, or red, I don't mean the color of the vegetable, not just that like zucchini is green, so it's a green category food, but that it's in this category of foods, which we'll explain, yellow category and red category. And then we also have this chart which shows the drastic difference in calorie density in certain foods. And once you learn to apply these concepts, you will be amazed at how helpful this is. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about green, yellow, and red category foods. Calorie density is the concept that all foods have a certain density of calories per pound of food. It's been said if you have a weight problem, you have a calorie density problem. Here in today's world, in our food culture, we eat many foods that are extremely high in calorie density. We don't even recognize how highly calorie dense these foods are because they're in our culture and we eat them all the time. But they're actually very rich calorie dense foods. When you switch to eating lower calorie dense foods, you can eat a lot more food, a lot more filling food. You won't be as hungry. The calories will be lower, and you can lose weight in a more natural and realistic way. All people eat about the same amount of volume of food per day. It varies per person, between 2 to 5 pounds of food per day, most people. So you might be someone that it seems like, gosh, like I eat more food than people around me. Maybe you feel like you need more food to get satisfied. Maybe you're a volume eater. That's me. I tend to need to eat a lot of volume of food to feel full and satisfied. There's nothing wrong with this, but if you're eating really highly calorie dense foods and you're eating a lot of volume, you're gonna pack in a lot of calories. But if you can learn to switch those to lower calorie dense foods, you can still eat just as much volume of food, but it'll be lower in calories, and so you'll lose weight. Reduce the calorie density of the food you eat, and weight loss will become easier. Eat higher calorie dense foods, and weight loss will be harder. Now, I don't want you to get overly caught up in the numbers. I've actually already done most of the work for you by giving you this chart and this chart. Once you learn how to apply it, it's really easy. You don't have to worry about any complicated math or numbers. I've done the hard work for you. So as we look at this, I have divided foods into green, yellow, and red. And just a reminder, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist. I'm sharing this with you as a general guide of what has worked really well for me, and I'm finding is working really, really well for my readers, but always rely on your doctor or nutritionist for what is best for you specifically. Green category foods are low in calorie density. These can be eaten often. In fact, research shows that most people don't even need to keep track of these foods. If they focus on these foods, they can naturally lose weight and eat to gentle satiety. Yellow foods are middle category. These are going to be higher in calorie density, and you want to be more careful, more aware with these foods. And then red are very high in calorie density. And these are foods where we really, really want to be cautious. So green category foods are green and yellow vegetables, fruits, whole grains, potatoes, and yes, even starchy vegetables, beans and tofu, and cooked pasta and bean pasta. Yellow category foods are your lean proteins, so it's your lower fat proteins, avocado, non-fat dairy, or even low-fat dairy could potentially be in that category. And then this is your flour products. So this is bread, cereals, processed carbohydrates. Then your red category foods are your full fat and processed meat and dairy, your treats, your junk foods, nuts and seeds, oils, fats, and butters. Now, we're not saying that green category foods are good and red category foods are bad. That's not the concept of calorie density. Sometimes that's true, but that's not always true. For example, some of the foods that are in this category might not be processed and might be really healthy, like nuts or olive oil. But what we are saying is that they're very highly calorie dense. What that means is think about each bite. One bite of spinach is about 1 calorie. One bite of a Snickers bar is about 50 calories. So you think about 50 calories per bite. How long does it take for those calories to add up? Not very long. They add up extremely quickly. So this is a concept where we're looking at how many calories per bite or per volume of food. So let's start with the green category and look at each category. So research shows, like I mentioned, that you can eat these foods pretty much to gentle satisfaction without gaining weight. You don't really need to stress too much about these foods. And when it comes to tracking, if you're someone who's tracking calories or Weight Watchers points, you don't need to worry too much about these foods. So like for Weight Watchers members, a lot of these are your 0-point foods. And just a little tidbit, calorie density is part of how Weight Watchers chooses their 0-point foods. It's not all of what they look at, but a lot of the research is looking at people can eat these foods without even keeping track, and they don't typically gain weight. And some of the Weight Watchers foods even go into the lower end of the yellow category, but most are your green foods. It's also true that if you're tracking calories, you don't need to worry that much. I mean, you want to track them, but you can kind of track them lightly. So for example, if I'm having a side salad, I'm not worrying about tracking each cucumber slice or worried about that one slice of tomato. I just track side salad, 50 calories, call it good. Because you can eat a huge volume of these foods and really not add a lot of calories. But when I start into the yellow category foods, okay, those I want to be more careful. And when I get to the red, I need to be really careful. So these are foods I'm measuring with measuring cups, I'm measuring with a food scale. I'm just being very cautious. It's so tempting for me with some of these foods. Like I can sit there with a peanut butter jar and a spoon and go to town, but that's gonna pack in a huge amount of calories that will drastically impact my weight. Whereas if I'm having baby carrots or cucumber slices, this is not that big of a deal. I don't need to be that concerned about it. Foods in the green category have a very high water content, which research has shown helps people eat less and have lower calorie density. So that's what you want. You want that. You want those fruits and those vegetables that have a high water content, or even something like whole wheat pasta or brown rice. You're cooking it in water, so it has a high water content. If you take the water out of that, you're changing the calorie density. So think about a food like beans that if you get canned beans or you cook canned beans, there's a lot of water cooked into that. If you take that food, like let's say garbanzo beans, and you roast them, you're roasting the water out of them, you're making them more calorie dense. So roasted chickpeas are higher in calorie density than chickpeas that you eat like on a salad out of the can or cook, and so they still have the water content in them. You can also use this concept of calorie density to think about starting your meals with a salad, starting your meals with a broth-based vegetable soup. I personally like to just start every meal with sort of my appetizer of roasted vegetables. I make a huge tray either in my oven here or on the grill outside, and I'll eat those for 3 or 4 meals. That's what I have to start my meal. I don't really worry about it matching the rest of my dinner. I start with that, and it helps me not be as hungry. It lowers the calorie density, and there you go. It's already healthier for anything else that I eat during that meal. So again, think about vegetables, fruits, whole wheat pasta, potatoes. Yes, you can eat potatoes. You don't have to avoid potatoes, beans. In the comments, tell me which of those foods in this green category do you really love? And which of those foods could you add more often to naturally have lower calorie density? Okay, now let's think about our yellow category foods. Now these are higher in calorie density, but they're still relatively low. Look at this chart. So these are our green foods. See how low they are in calorie density? Now here's yellow. Yes, they are higher, but they're still not anywhere close to as high as our red category foods. What's great about your yellow foods is that many of those are especially high in protein. So this is going to be like chicken breast, turkey breast, your low fat and fat-free dairy, so plain Greek yogurt. These foods give you more protein. And I would encourage you to experiment with this and find what works for you personally. There's going to be some personal variance with this. A great place, I think, to experiment is breakfast. So for example, if you have 2 or 3 scrambled eggs with some vegetables, is that a breakfast that keeps you going for the day? Or would you be more satisfied with a breakfast of oatmeal and fruit? Try it and find out. Try a couple days. Another option would plain Greek yogurt with some fruit be a good breakfast for you? You're just going to have to try it and see. People have a different variety. I find that the vegetables with the eggs is the most satisfying. So that's what I have almost every morning. It helps me not be as hungry. I love oatmeal and fruit, but I need to eat those foods a little bit later in the day. Sometimes I need to pair it with maybe something with some more protein, and I find that that's what keeps me more satisfied. There's no right or wrong, it's what works for you. And again, research shows that the protein can be helpful in those foods and focusing on that lower calorie density. And remember, in the yellow category, now we are getting into some flours. So like whole wheat flour or white flour, cereals, which tend to be more processed, made into a flour. Anytime you are grinding something, drying it, it's going to be higher in calorie density versus eating the food that is cooked in its natural state is lower. Not right or wrong, just higher in calorie density. Those are also foods that are much easier to overeat. You wouldn't necessarily eat, cups and cups of brown rice or cooked pasta, although some of us could. I know I could. But think about that compared to like cereal or granola. I could go to town with that and eat bowls and bowls. And the calorie density in cooked brown rice is lower compared to the calorie density in cornflakes is relatively high. All right, now we get into the really important category, which is your red category foods. These foods are very high in calorie density. And this is where this chart is important, because this is what I did not understand until I started to learn about calorie density. Just the huge difference. These green category foods, then you compare to red, some of the red category foods are 10 to 25 times more calorie dense. And some of us here in our first world countries right now are eating all of our foods here. This is very highly calorie dense, many calories per bite, more than the green category foods. I mean, look at the difference. This is a tremendous difference. So again, think about the calories per bite and start to think about, as you get to this very highest end, these are very rich, special foods. These are foods that people, like even 100 years ago, 200 years ago, did not have limitless access to the way we do in today's world. When we start to get into fast food, many takeout foods, restaurant foods, processed foods, we're looking at these being very highly dense, rich foods. Now, that's not to say you can't enjoy these foods. You can, and I do. I eat nuts or peanut butter almost every day. I eat chocolate. I eat cake and junk food, but I'm very careful about those foods to recognize every bite of this food matters. Every bite makes a difference because it's so rich and calorie dense. This is a treat. This is a special food. And because oil is over here, you want to think about that too. You don't want to be glugging olive oil like Rachel Ray into your pan if weight is a challenge for you and you want to lose weight, because that's a very rich, calorie dense food. Could you cook that same food with chicken broth or a little bit of cooking spray? Or could you use just a much smaller amount of olive oil, because that's a very rich food. You don't want to just glug it in, especially if you're really not even going to taste the difference. So some of these red category foods, I start to think about, is this really worth the splurge to me? Maybe it is. Maybe you're gonna sit down and enjoy a special, treat of some chocolate, a few bites of chocolate every day. Maybe, having those roasted vegetables, a couple teaspoons of olive oil makes a huge difference in the flavor. But don't just walk by the candy bar and eat it without thinking about it. Don't go into the pantry and just eat a spoonful of peanut butter without really being aware, like, whoa, is this worth it? Because this is a lot of calories per bite. So tell me in the comments, which of those red category foods is a really big deal to you? It's really worth it, like the chocolate or the nuts or the peanut butter. And which of those are you thinking, gosh, I'm getting really calorie dense food that might not really be worth it to me? Or another thing you can think is, can I enjoy a similar food but make it go down in calorie density? Is there a red food that maybe I could trade for a yellow food? Is there a yellow category food that I could trade for a green calorie food? Or could you eat a green category food first? Like, for example, what I was saying about how I eat a bowl of vegetables as my appetizer before every meal. At least I'm eating that lower calorie dense food first. I'm filling up my stomach before I'm moving on to the yellow or red, especially red category foods. So again, remember, no food is off limits. This is just a concept of how you can make weight loss easier. It's not to say any food is a bad food or a good food. I just want you to get really smart. Be wise and think about how you can use this concept to make weight loss easier for you. Have that wisdom to use this to your advantage. And remember to get the free download of the Holy Mess Calorie Density Guide. The link is below. And if you have any questions about calorie density, let me know. I'm here to support you every step of the way. I'm Sarah with the Holy Mess. Thanks for watching.